Hello and welcome to the NDTV Dialogues, a conversation of ideas. Tonight we focus on what is India's biggest issue at the moment, yet not discussed enough. When will we be able to end poverty? Currently, of course, in India, we have the largest number of poor people in the world. 1/3 of the world's extremely poor population lives in India, according to the UN report. When will we move ahead from Garibi, Hatao to Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas? Election slogans over the years have focused on poverty. When will we actually see action? Joining me for more on that, I'm joined by the Union Minister of State for Finance, Mr. Jayant Sinha. I'm also joined by Sachin Pilot, former Corporate Affairs Minister, currently Chief of the Rajasthan Pradesh Congress. Also with me is Professor Yogendra Yadav, who is now, of course, an independent expert and analyst. He's just returned from a tour of drought-hit areas in India. I'm also joined by one of India's most respected industrial voices, NR Narayan Murthy. Thank you all very much for coming in. Mr. Sinha, the good news for India and has been, of course, the 12-point rise in the World Bank's ease of doing business rankings. The bad news, of course, remains the recent figures which shows that India has the largest number of malnourished children in the world. I quoted the UN report which pointed out that for the world to end poverty, India has to end poverty. Somehow ending poverty seems to be one of the rhetoric or those campaign slogans we've heard from Indira Gandhi's times till now. Will you actually see, this government promises it can eradicate poverty? It's just a pipe dream?
I think we will be able to eradicate poverty, Sonia, because really the initiatives that we have underway right now are going to be able to provide us the ability to lift all of India's poor people out of poverty and at the same time create for our young people jobs. Now, how are we going to do that? First and foremost, what we are doing is we are putting in place the platform for a universal social security system. And you saw what we did with the Jan Dhan Yojana. In 100 days, we covered 100% of India's families so that every Indian family today has a bank account. Now, once they have a bank account, we can get to them a whole host of benefits, starting with, of course, the payment of Narega wages directly into their bank accounts, the Viklang pension, the Riddha pension, all of that can go into their bank account. The gas cylinder subsidy, obviously, the PEHL program is already happening. Many of the states have used, this platform to put in place a health insurance program, and so we can do that also. So by being able to get to each individual in this fashion, by taking advantage of the Jan Dhan, Aadhaar and mobile trinity, the JAM trinity, we have the ability to create a robust safety net for every single Indian. Now think about what that means. What that means is that every single Indian can be assured, whether it is through the PDS program or any of these other benefit programs, that they will be able to at least keep their body and soul together. That's the end of extreme poverty as we know it in India right now. And we've put in place the infrastructure, the platform to do that. That's very important. Secondly, the efforts that we have underway for job creation, whether it's Make in India, whether it's what we're doing with Skill India, the Mudra Yojana, what we're doing for Startup India. So we are ensuring that large companies, obviously because of ease of doing business and financing and everything else, can grow and scale. And small businesses, whether it's a thela wala, a dukandar, somebody that wants to start a saloon, they can get through Mudra, the loan to get into business. So for the millions and millions of crores of people that are doing small businesses, micro enterprises, they can get loans as well and they can get started. I was just with Snapdeal a few days ago, and Kunal Behel was telling me that they have 300,000 small merchants now on that platform. And with Mudra, they are able to provide them financing so that these people can stock up, they can have inventory, and then they can sell through the Snapdeal platform. That's what Amazon is doing, Flipkart is doing. That's what the big businesses are doing. But that's enabling the small businesses as well. And obviously all of the global businesses, Foxconn, SoftBank, these people are creating jobs as well. Those are the ways, through jobs, through a robust safety net, we are going to end poverty and create opportunity for all Indians. Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas.
I'm going to get in the rest of my panel. Sachin Pilot, election slogans, and frankly that really has been one thing held against the Congress, because it began, as I said, from Indira Gandhi's time. We've heard Garibi, Hatao, and till the end, till 2014, when your critics pointed out that for the Congress it perhaps worked to keep the poor poor, because that's almost like their vote bank. You be a nanny state, povertarian politics, as many editors pointed out. Has the Congress failed? Is this something the BJP is going to pick up on, and in identifying what the core issue is for India, Has the government done much better than you all did?
I think let's forget about slogans now. This is the time for the government to perform, and it's time for us to analyze. The UP's tenure.
1.5 years versus your over virtually 60 years.
Fair enough. It's not 60 years, first of all. And mind you, Sonia, every time we got elected, it is because people voted for us. It's not that we stayed in power because we wanted to stay in power. Of course, we want to work and help the people. Poverty, what does that mean? It's okay to think about creating more jobs. That's essential for any large country like ours. But what about children who are malnourished? What about kids who are not going to school? What about primary health care? The kind of stunted growth we are seeing in under 5, those sort of children. Midday meal program budgets are slashed. The SC, ST, backwards, those are the communities that have not been given the kind of financial help that they ought to have gotten. The last 2 budgets of this government, really, 1 lakh crore has been slashed from social sector spending. Now, if you don't spend in the social sector and then want to have a market economy to be the solution for all ills in India, it won't happen. I think investments are great, they're important, they're needed, job creation is important. You can have a great GDP growth, but if it's a jobless growth, it doesn't really help young people. To create an ecosystem where job creation takes place, but at the same time, there are hundreds of millions of people who don't have access to education and healthcare. For that, government must step in. I think this government has really fallen short in putting its might and its effort and resources behind those special groups all over the country. I think the farming community is under stress. There is a debt crisis. Farmer suicide haven't stopped. All this goes to show that poverty as we see it today is a different issue. Today, India is aspirational. Of course, we want to move forward. We want to have the benefits of good things in life. But still, the basics that a human being needs to and requires to live a life of dignity, we haven't really done enough, I think, in the last 1.5 years to achieve that.
I'm going to get Mr. Sinha to respond because you made some specific points about cut in social sector spending. You had a minister in your own government, Maneka Gandhi, say that we can't even afford to pay salaries by the end of the month, and we asked for an increase in funds. That is a big issue. The Lancet has also pointed out that public health spending, the reduction by your government, is an area of great worry. While creating jobs is, of course, an essential, that won't solve the problem of malnourished children immediately.
I think those statements are actually factually incorrect. I'd like to correct Sri Pilot in what he said. We have not slashed spending in any social sector. All that has happened is that the funding that was coming through the center and the central programs has been shifted to the states as part of the devolution that the Finance Commission, a constitutional body, said it should be done, and that was done on the basis of consultations. In fact, that Finance Commission headed up by Sri Reddy was constituted during the UPA time, and they took on board all of the inputs and advice of a number of experts and spoke to state chief ministers, and the overwhelming consensus was that rather than have one-size-fits-all programs from the center, that those monies, those funds should be shifted to the states so that the states could decide exactly how to run these social sector programs. Now, of course, as a result of that, in Sri Maneka Gandhi's situation, some of the programs that we had at the center were obviously scaled back. Now, we've tried to do, as we've got more fiscal resources, to do whatever we can to be able to help those ministries as well. But the reality is the view in India now, represented by the Finance Commission's deliberations, and of course from what the people of India want, is to have the funds at the state level where there can be more responsive and more accountable governance and provision of these vitally important public services. Our first and foremost priority is to create a robust safety net for all people in India so we can eradicate poverty and give them the opportunity to improve their lives. So I reject it. I think it's factually incorrect, and it's a trope that is put out to attack us, but it is not supported by the facts at all.
Well, let me actually ask Professor Yadav, because he's actually been touring India in drought-hit areas, and I think the issue of farmer suicides, and that's been something, whether it's been the UPA government and now it's the NDA government, it doesn't seem to have improved. In fact, it's worsened. The irony, of course, is that it has been in some parts which are to states, to not necessarily the poorest states, where the suicides are higher. You've seen it in Maharashtra, you've seen it in now Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, that farmer suicides still are high despite the fact that the state may have quite a robust economy.
Absolutely. You see, we've been into a limited debate so far, which is to say how much NDA should take credit or blame and how much Congress should get credit or blame. I thought we were asking a bigger question here today about our country. Is our country responding to the challenge of poverty? And as you mentioned, I traveled for the last 2 weeks, traveled across all the drought-prone areas from Karnataka to Haryana. And many of the things that we talk about simply don't exist on the ground. Yes, poverty reduction has taken place in absolute numbers, that everyone has to acknowledge, and this has happened across governments. But when we look at agriculture, for example, any serious poverty reduction has to address agriculture. I did not hear one single item in whatever Mr. Sinha listed. Honestly, I did not hear any clear agriculture policy. And to be fair to you, neither did UPA. We simply have not had a coherent policy on agriculture. And the only time we wake up is when we find suicides. Now remember, suicide is the end point of a long unfolding tragedy. For every one person who commits suicide, there are at least 99 more who reach the brink but don't muster the courage or whatever to do that. Our agrarian system is in crisis. We do not merely have a distress. This particular year is a distress year because of drought. But what we don't recognize is that we are in an agrarian crisis. Whatever may have grown, agriculture has not grown over the years, whether it was UPA regime or its NDA. We have reached a dead end. Farmers basically are in a situation where price of their products is not rising. Their costs of agriculture and their other costs are rapidly rising. They find themselves in a debt trap, and that is what leads to suicide. So unless we have any coherent response to this agrarian crisis, how do we even begin talking about responding to poverty? And I honestly feel there is a serious lack of political will. I don't speak of one party or the other. As a country, I think there's a growing amnesia when it comes to questions of rural poverty.
I think that's an important point, because as a country, and I'd like to bring in Mr. Narayan Murthy on that aspect, because Mr. Narayan Murthy, I think it's even in the media, when we debate farmers, it comes up over the land acquisition bill, and that became a kind of flashpoint, perhaps to talk about farmers or farmer suicide, because we look at it as a government, as a political battle. It's a clash. Who will get the land? Is industry the villain of the piece? Do farmers want to abandon agriculture? But we never look at farmers as Indians, as citizens with equal rights, perhaps as, say, an industrialist would demand, or an aspirational youth in any of the cities of India would demand. Why is it that it's often seen that the tag may be that if you say "Soot Poot Ki Sarkar," it's seen as a bad word, that, oh, if a government is pro-corporate, that's a death wish politically. But in reality, there is much more interaction or exchange, as it were, between industrialists and governments than there are between a farmer and government, except at election time.
Sonia, first of all, let me say that it is indeed a great privilege to be with such distinguished people. In the last week or so, I have been reading several books, and I've also been looking at internet for how economic progress takes place in a nation. The data over the last 300 years says that the first requirement for economic progress, for speedy economic progress, is a peaceful, harmonious, trustworthy, confident, enthusiastic, and energetic environment amongst the people. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, I am not a politician, I am not interested in politics, therefore I don't want to comment on that. But the reality today is that there is considerable fear in the minds of minority in India. There is considerable fear in the minds of people of one region living in another region. For example, like we had in '67, where South Indians were treated very badly by Shiv Sena in Mumbai. Today there's a lot of that worry. I get lots of emails, I get a lot of people talking to me even though I stay at home because of my leg. So I would say, Sonia, the first priority of this government, or for that matter any government, both at the central level and the state level, to bring back the confidence, the energy, the enthusiasm, and the trust in the minds of every Indian that this is our country, I have all the rights here, I am very safe, and therefore I will work towards the betterment of India. I think that is the first requirement. I have studied lots of books, I have looked at lots of articles on internet. And over the last 300 years, data and facts tell me that no country has ever made speedy economic progress unless there is no strife, there is no distrust, there is no fear, unless the majority community, does not oppress the minority community, does not want the minority community to do what it wants, etc., etc. No, it doesn't matter which government is in position.
Yes, because of course you're in Karnataka, and interestingly there's a Congress government in Karnataka and a BJP government at the center. So you're saying that you're facing the worst of both governments, is your point?
No, but the reality is it doesn't matter. What happened to Mr. Kalburgi is a great example. So I don't care whether it is UPA, NDA, Congress, BJP. I am not interested in politics. I have no interest in politics. Therefore, I am not worried about what concoction of government is where. But the reality is we have to create an environment of peace, harmony, trust, enthusiasm, energy, etc. And then we can get to economic matters. Let me assure you that unless we sort that problem out, I don't think we will be able to bring back growth. I don't think we will be able to solve the problem of poverty. I don't think we will be able to eliminate the sad cases of poor farmers committing suicide. For all of that, the first requirement for us is to create an environment of positivism, environment of confidence, environment of trust.
I'm going to let Mr. Sinha respond because
I belong to India.
Because Mr. Sinha, of course, Mr. Narayan Murthy there speaking a political voice, a very respected voice, but you had a former friend, a former BJP supporter, Prime Minister Narendra Modi supporter, Arun Shourie, speak very strongly this week of how the NDA is the Congress government plus a cow. In fact, he even said that people are missing the days of Shri Manmohan Singh. Mr. Narayan Murthy said this so strongly, and again, this discussion is on poverty, so it was quite unexpected that he brought that up. If Mr. Narayan Murthy says this so strongly, we can imagine what perhaps an average person is saying.
No, I think Mr. Murthy is exactly right. I think all of us as citizens are concerned about law and order, but I think all citizens of India should be very reassured with what the Honorable Prime Minister has said, many senior leaders of the BJP and of the NDA has said, and obviously what Rashtrapati ji have said, which is that constitutional rights are going to be protected. They are non-negotiable and inviolable. We are sworn by oath to protect the Constitution. And if there is a sense that people have that they are living in an atmosphere of intolerance, then it should not be because we are not fully and 100% in support of the Constitution. It is because the law and order situation is not allowing people to express themselves freely or do what they need to do to go about their lives. So let's make this absolutely crystal clear. I think the conversation can stop right there, because there is no question that constitutional rights have to be fully protected by the full force of the law. Otherwise, we shouldn't be in governance. It's as simple as that. And I think that's exactly what our party has said. That's exactly what the Prime Minister has said. That's exactly what Rashtrapati ji have said. So that, I think, is absolutely crystal clear. Now, I just want to come back very quickly to a point that Shri Yadav made about not having an agricultural policy. I'm sorry, I will have to reject that. I think our agricultural policy is crystal clear. It starts with the Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, the soil health card, more agricultural credit, and national crop insurance, and all the work that we're doing to liberalize agricultural markets. We have a very clear, well-defined agricultural policy. Yes, there is significant distress in agriculture right now because of a variety of reasons, most of which have related to the monsoon, in fact, which we know is very erratic and variable now because of global climate change. But we have a very clear framework in terms of what we are thinking about as far as agricultural policy is concerned.
But I just want to pick up on that theme because of what you just said, because while the Prime Minister did speak about 2 weeks after the Dadri incident, the point is, why has the issue of beef politics come up in the Bihar election campaign? We've had the BJP President, Mr. Amit Shah, say that if the BJP loses in Bihar, there will be celebrations in Pakistan. So in that sense, there are different voices speaking. The Prime Minister will say this, but then a minister will say this. You had the BJP President making this remark about celebrations in Pakistan if the BJP loses. So what, in that sense, there is a double message or contradictory message going out for a party which prides itself on communication?
Well, those voices in the party that have spoken in a way that is not respectful of India's pluralism and India's diversity and everybody's constitutional rights.
Ministers.
Everyone, I'm not just including ministers, everyone in the party that is speaking in a way that is not in line with our constitutional principles and what India is, have been informed and spoken to and told that we have to respect the constitutional framework and the manner in which Indian society and culture operate.
You didn't answer Mr. Amit Shah's comment on celebration in
I
Pakistan.
can't answer that comment because I have not heard it, I don't know the context, so it would not be fair and appropriate of me to comment on it.
Sachin Pilot, I think that point, as Mr. Narayan Murthy raised about the death of a rationalist in Karnataka as well, why is it that the Congress government should be absolved of blame for an atmosphere of intolerance? Why is it, I think again Mr. Amit Shah has made that point, that these are state governments who are not BJP, either in Uttar Pradesh or in Karnataka. Why blame the BJP?
I think it's a very flimsy argument to make that you, being a full majority government at the centre in Delhi, can just shrug off all your constitutional, social, moral, political responsibility by saying it's a state level incident. I think all these things are happening, Sonia. I know we're diverting from the poverty issue,
yes,
but these things are happening because there is a very large shadow protecting such voices. Now, whatever Mr. Sinha may say or may not say about curbing and respecting the constitution, the fact is that the deeds and the actions of people that his party and his government support and are affiliated with are absolutely doing the wrong thing. Now, the fact that people are returning the rewards, historians, filmmakers, artists, it's not because they're Congress supporters. In fact, some of these people have been critical of the Congress party in the past. So it's wrong to say that these people's backgrounds are checkered and they ought to not do this because they belong to A, Y or Z ideology. The fact is there is a vitiating atmosphere, whether it's a Bihar election, I don't know. But the fact is that what Mr. Murthy says is unless you have a stable, peaceful coexistence in a society that really boasts itself of its pluralism, you really can't have all these GDP numbers and investments, etc. And who will take responsibility? I'm sorry, the first person to speak against this was the President of India. And then the Prime Minister spoke. So I think it's not the party, Prime Minister and the President, it's the President first. It took the President of India to talk about these things, and then
Shri Pilot is not right. Factually, Shri Jaitley ji, Shri Rajnath ji had already spoken about it before the President spoke.
I'm talking about the Prime Minister.
Well, I'm saying that there were many very senior leaders of the BJP, very...
There's only one Prime Minister and he spoke after the President.
But the senior leaders of the party had spoken on this matter in
only one Prime Minister
in a very categorical way, in a very clear manner on this issue.
Professor Yadav, on the ground, do you find this debate, as I said, whether it's about beef, whether it's about what you should eat, when the irony again remains that so many people in India go to sleep hungry. So in that sense, it's often the rhetoric and the reality seems so disconnected from each other. And I think maybe people in government also find that we'll go on the economy, we'll do this, but the rhetoric becomes all about something else. Is this a particularly Indian problem? Why is it that this is what dominates campaigns? You, of course, are a political rep. You can put on your political guru hat as well here.
The disconnect is so much, not merely because the debates taking place in Delhi have no connection to what's happening on the ground, but honestly, it has no connection to the cow. I mean, traveling through this, what we don't realize is currently the country is passing through a very serious crisis for cattle. Thousands and thousands of cattle are being driven out because people cannot defend. These are cows. And if there's anyone who loves cows, please stop this debate in Delhi. Please go and do something to these cows who are being driven out. And I don't know if our animal census or something is done. Please, Mr. Sinha, get someone to check this out. This could be a period where millions of cattle are facing the crisis of life. We should be discussing that rather than some of these questions.
Agrarian crisis is no fodder to give the cows. So
I think let's not undervalue the significance of the point that Mr. Murthy has made. I think he's made a very profound and a very serious statement coming from a sober person like him, which is that the overall climate right now is not conducive. Let's not drag it down to BJP, Congress, whatever. You sometimes think there are things that parties do when they are irresponsible and in opposition. But when it happens with direct sort of, in a sense, go ahead from a ruling party at the center, that's a very, very serious situation. And I mean,
is that whatever. A political allegation, Professor Yadav? Because they would contest that very strongly.
You see, what's happening, Sonia, is this. We have a crowdsourcing of communal violence. it's not coming directly from the top. The old model has changed. It's crowdsourcing, where what you have to do, and that's the point I've been making for some time, now the kind of communalism that we see, the kind of intolerance we see, is not something which is directed from above. With a certain kind of regime in power, all you need is a wink, all you need is a nod, and the local SHO does the rest. So it's happening at the local level. I don't want this debate to become, to get diverted from poverty debate to this, but let's only note the significance of the point that Mr. Murthy made, and that this message is being noticed all over the world. And Mr. Sinha, what matters are not abstract statements that Prime Minister make. Those heads of state who really want to make a difference, heads of government, they talk about specifics. That's not what we heard from our Prime Minister.
Sonia, the Prime Minister has made that statement. He has said over and over again that his religion is India and his only holy book is the Constitution. I repeat, the Constitution. He has said that multiple times. So I think the Honorable Prime Minister has been absolutely crystal clear on this matter.